following video is not made for kids. Viewer discretion is advised. Hello everyone, this is the TFangy coming to you with a Transformers review, and today we're going to be taking a look at a Transformers action figure that I was originally going to pass on entirely. I had no interest in getting this figure at all, but when push came to shove, I figured after watching nothing but positive reviews from other Transformers fans and collectors, I figured why not get this action figure. So here is the Transformers Legacy Evolution Deluxe Class Armada Hotshot. So yes, I had no plans on getting this figure at all. I was going to pass on it entirely, but if you're seeing nothing but positive reviews from this figure from other reviewers here on YouTube, I figured what would be the harm in getting it. So yeah, here's Armada Hotshot. So if I don't sound too enthusiastic or excited about this figure, that's because right now I'm still on the fence about having this figure in my Transformers collection. But regardless, one thing I do have to admit is that the figure is a nice, faithful update to the original Armada Hotshot action figure. I don't have the original yellow version of Hotshot, but I do have the red Power Links figure that was released in 2003. The red repaint of Armada Hotshot is based on Generation 1 Hot Rod's paint job. Kind of, sort of. It's a bit art event. For those of you who don't know who Hotshot is, Hotshot, the name was actually originally used on a character in Robots in Disguise 2001/Car Robots, and that was a completely different character that was named Hotshot. But then, when the Transformers Armada franchise was started, Hasbro wanted to have a young Autobot character who had a mostly yellow paint job, who transformed into a sports car, be one of the prominent characters in Transformers Armada, and Hotshot was actually supposed to be based off of Transformers Generation 1 Bumblebee. But at the time in 2002, when the Transformers Armada franchise was launched, Hasbro wasn't able to get a registered trademark to Bumblebee's name, and so what they did is they decided to pick one of the names from one of the Autobot spy changers from Car Robots, the robots from the Robots in Disguise 2001 series, and they chose Hotshot, and they ended up making Hotshot. He's basically a mashup of Generation 1 Bumblebee and Generation 1 Hot Rod. So Hotshot is, as far as his paint job goes, being a mostly yellow sports car, and he's being a somewhat of an Autobot scout. He's kind of, those are traits he shares with Generation 1 Bumblebee, but being a young, brash Autobot who's not quite exposed to battle and is still trying to prove himself amongst his fellow Autobots, its Hotshot is just like Generation 1 Hot Rod in that regard. So yes, Hotshot was designed to be a mashup of both Generation 1 Bumblebee and Generation 1 Hot Rod. So here he is inside the box. There's some artwork of him in his alt mode of a sports car. Here on the box you got the QR code for Hotshot's bio. Unfortunately, I don't own a smartphone, so I can't scan it. Here's some artwork of Hotshot in his robot mode. It close up of his face. There he is in his robot mode. On this side of the box, you've got the right-hand side of the poster image for the Legacy Evolution line, which of course features Armada Hotshot on here. Hotshot's one of several Transformers charging into battle. The others include Generation 2 Laser Optimus Prime. You've got the Nemesis starship coming out of a space bridge following a quintesson on spaceship. You've got the Decepticons, and then of course you've got the Junkion charging into battle, and just above this enlarged Decepticon logo, you see the Armada version of Optimus Prime, who's been confirmed to be the Commander class figure being released this year in 2023. Coming around to the back of the box, you've got Hotshot in his robot mode, and in his vehicle mode, he transforms back and forth between both modes in just 21 steps. And the Evo Fusion gimmick, basically, the Evo Fusion gimmick is kind of a stupid one, in regards that it's just a fancy name of having additional weapons that you can pose the Transformers The Legacy Evolution figures with. And Hotshot's Evo Fusion weapon gimmick is the bat cannon that his original Armada figure had. In the original Transformers Armada line, all of the pop-out weapons and flip-out weapons that the Armada action figures came with were activated by plugging in mini-cons that would activate spring-loaded weapons hidden inside the Transformers. Hotshot's bat cannon is formed by the axle where the back wheels of his vehicle mode are stored. And unfortunately, with the modern-day Legacy Evolution figures that are being released in the Legacy line, Hasbro and Tomy are omitting gimmicks on the Transformers action figures, so it appears that Hasbro and Tomy have no plans whatsoever on releasing any modern-day action figures of the Minicons from Transformers Armada, so this new updated Legacy version of Hotshot, it lacks his Minicon partner Jolt, but incredibly he does come with the engine block that you can plug onto the top of his hood. That was a part of Jolt's vehicle mode out of a helicopter. You can plug it onto Jolt or you can plug it onto Hotshot. And on the original Armada action figure, what you did is when you plugged the engine block onto the top middle section of Hotshot's hood, the front bumper section would split open and reveal two saw blades that were sculpted onto the bottom of Hotshot's feet. That gimmick has also been removed entirely from Hotshot in favor of him having more action poses in robot mode and being able to utilize the engine block as a dual barrel laser gun that he can use in robot mode. Hotshot was shown using it multiple times in the Armada cartoon, but the original Armada Hotshot action figure, it wasn't actually capable of holding the engine block laser gun, so that's one thing the new Legacy Evolution figure has up over the original, is being able to actually hold the smaller laser gun. And like all Minicon activated weapons in the Armada line, when Hotshot's back cannon was deployed, there was actually a red missile that you would fire on it. It was spring-loaded, and that gimmick has also been removed entirely. Whether or not someone's going to develop a third-party upgrade kit, which actually develops a red missile that you can plug onto the side wheel there. Here on Hotshot's alt mode is uncertain at this point. And that's pretty much it about Hotshot. Just like the original Armada action figure, one gimmick Hotshot does possess is that he has a battle visor that you can flip down and hide his eyes and protect his face. You can do it right now while Hotshot's still inside his packaging. You can deploy the battle visor. As far as I can tell, just like the original Armada figure, it is clipped on, so just be aware when you find Armada Hotshot, make sure that his battle visor is still there here on top of his head. On the original Armada Hotshot action figure, the battle visor was on a swivel joint, so it just swivel up and down. And I have seen some photos online where, over time, on the original Armada Hotshot action figure, see if I can get my finger out of the way. I have seen photos online where people have the original Armada Hotshot action figure, and if you use the battle visor more often over time, the battle visor no longer wants to stay propped up and it ends up covering Hotshot's face. But here on the new Legacy figure, you can feel you can feel a click, you can feel a slight click, so there is now a stopper that prevents the visor from coming down over Hotshot's face, so I think the designers must have looked back in the original figure and decided to improve that gimmick here. The battle visor is made out of clear blue plastic, but it's been painted over with silver paint. You can see that here on the artwork on Hotshot's head sculpt, where the actual, for lack of better grammar, goggles on the battle visor are blue, while the rest of it is silver. That's pretty much it. So this new modern day action figure of Hotshot, it has all the it has more or less the same gimmicks that the original action figure had, but with the gimmick of the Minicons now removed, all the gimmicks you would do manually by yourself. There's nothing spring loaded. There's no spring firing missiles anymore. And that's pretty much it. It's just gimmicks have been abandoned in favor of giving the Transformers action figures more articulated joints in robot mode, so you can get them into more action poses. And one last thing I'll say about Hotshot is that if you look closely at his vehicle mode, at first glance it doesn't look like any vehicle you might have seen here. And that's because for the Transformers Armada franchise, the idea behind the developers at Hasbro and Tomy when designing the vehicle modes of the Transformers Armada characters was that they would basically look like regular vehicles, but then they would have cannons, machine guns, and additional weapons that were available for them to use right away when they transferred into their alternate modes. And so the idea behind the Transformers Armada action figures was, aesthetically, the designs of the vehicle modes of these characters was that they look like vehicles basically from the Mad Max franchise, where there's machine guns built into them all over the place, and laser guns and weapons built into them. But unlike the Mad Max franchise, the vehicle modes of the Transformers Armada characters have brand new paint jobs. They're nice and clean cut vehicles. So basically, just imagine imagine the vehicles from the Mad Max franchise being brand newly painted in spick and span vehicle modes, and that's why Hotshot's vehicle mode looks like a sports car with additional weapons mounted on it. So with all that information out of the way, let's take a look at Hotshot in his robot mode, get him out of his box, and see what he looks like. Alright, so here is Hotshot out of his box and transferred into his robot mode, and he is really impressive looking. I'm getting all sorts of flashbacks to when I was much younger and I first started collecting Transformers action figures with the Armada line, seeing Hotshot in the cartoon. He ended up being one of my favorite characters from Transformers Armada, and seeing this new figure out of the box now in hand, I'm really getting a lot of nostalgia for the Armada series looking at this figure. There is one part of Hotshot's transformation that's different here with compared to the original figure. This kibble right here that ends up on the back of Hotshot's robot mode legs, which is the windshields of the vehicle mode. On the original Armada action figure, this part of Hotshot's vehicle mode ended up being kibble that hung off the back of his arms, and it really limited Hotshot's articulation in robot mode. If you wanted to, you could, if you wanted to take these off just to make Hotshot look more accurate and unfortunately there's no ports that design it to connect to the bottom of the arm, but you could, if you wanted to, take it off and attach it to the arm, maybe with a rubber band, and just to give Hotshot that more accurate look to his original Transformers Armada action figure. But one of the reasons why the kibble's now here on the back of Hotshot's legs is, if you look at the inside of the legs, unfortunately Hotshot doesn't have any real lower legs on him. The bottom of his legs is basically virtually non-existent, save for the armor that he has on the front of his legs and on the sides. Alright, so it's really a shame that Hotshot doesn't really have lower legs on the bottom of him, but he does have some nice feet that allow him to stand up properly on flat surfaces. And again, here's his backpack. It does stick out more than it does compared to the original Armada action figure, but it doesn't hinder the articulation by any means. And then of course the main gimmick is that you can flip out the chest cannon. According to the box, you're supposed to have this side with the 5mm port pointing out of the front. And again, someone could potentially, and someone probably will, do a third-party upgrade kit, which you can plug a red missile on there to mimic the original Armada Hotshot's spring-loaded firing missile on there. I kind of wish that they would have designed the back wheels to look the same on this new figure, since the spring-loaded missile gimmick has now been removed, but I can kind of see why they did the hubcaps on the two backpack wheels, why they made them look different, because that is accurate to Hotshot's original Armada action figure. And then of course he can now hold the engine block laser gun, and inside his hands there's two 5mm ports, or it's on here due to the gimmick of it becoming the engine block for his vehicle mode. So unfortunately the Hotshot can't really hold it in the exact center. It's off-center, but I'm not really complaining about that. So for articulation, Hotshot's head can't swivel left and right. You can lower the battle visor if you want to have him charge into battle. The arms can go up this far, and they can go back this far, or they can go out at the shoulder this far. He does have a bicep swivel, hinged elbow, no wrist articulation, swivel joint in the waist. Legs can go forward this far, they can go back this far. Even with the backpack kibble there's enough clearance that you can put the leg back without the kibble from the vehicle mode getting in the way. So some nice universal joints in the hips, swivel joints in the thighs. Hotshot does technically have a hinged knee joint, but the way the knee joint transforms, the knee joint can be a little stiff, and you do have to move the back leg, leg armor out of the way to get the joint to bend down, so the knee joints are rendered virtually useless. And then, of course, the toes can go up and down at the feet due to transformation. And that's pretty much it for articulation with Hotshot. So, just for a quick size comparison, here he is next to the first modern-day Unicron trilogy Hotshot figure that we got. Here's the Transformers Generation Selects, aka Siege, Cybertron version of Hotshot. So, long story short, throughout all three Transformers Unicron trilogy cartoon series, Hotshot ended up having 4 body types, and if you count the bodies in which he got a different paint job, basically Hotshot's appearance changes 6 times throughout all 3 Transformers Unicron trilogy cartoon series of Armada, Energon, and Cybertron. So if you watch the entire Transformers Unicron trilogy from start to finish, Hotshot ends up starting off like this looking like this in Transformers Armada, and by the end of the Unicron trilogy in Transformers Cybertron, Hotshot basically looks like this. So it's incredible how Hotshot changed so much. Hotshot is one of the more memorable characters, arguably, from the Unicron trilogy, and part of that has to do with the fact that Hotshot is one of only 3 Autobot characters to appear in all 3 Unicron trilogy cartoon series. Armada, Energon, and Cybertron. The other 2 Autobots who appear in all 3 series besides Hotshot are Optimus Prime and Jetfire, and every other single Autobot character who appears in the Unicron trilogy. They appear in either 2 or just 1 of the 3 Unicron trilogy series. Hotshot had the special honor of joining Optimus Prime and Jetfire and being only 3 Autobots to appear in all 3 of them. And that's pretty much all there is to say about Hotshot. One thing I wish they would have done as a callback to the original Armada action figures is made the Autobot logo on his shoulder. I wish they would have actually sculpted it into the surface of the figure like they did on the original Transformers Armada action figures. It's just painted on, so there's a fear that the paint could end up scraping off over time. And that actually happened here on my copy of Generation Select Cybertron Hotshot. His Autobot logo, the paint's smudged off. Unfortunately, I've chalked that up to the battle damage markings that were found on the Siege action figures, where some of the battle damage that this version of Hotshot has is from it's on his Autobot logo. But then that's just a minor nitpick that can be easily overlooked. One nice thing about the back cannon is that it doesn't matter which side you have it facing, it plugs in the same way. Okay, so without further delay, let's get Hotshot transformed into his alternate mode and wrap up the review. Alright, so here is Hotshot transformed into his vehicle mode of a yellow sports car. It does more closely match up his appearance in the Transformers PlayStation 2 video game that came out in 2003 more than his original Armada action figure or his animation model from the Armada cartoon. Hotshot's vehicle mode, it was more squat. It was more squat and elevated higher compared to the Legacy Evolution figure. I know there's people who will disagree with me on that statement, but looking at the figure and remembering how Hotshot looked in the Armada cartoon, having his red Armada action figure in my Transformers collection since 2003, looking back at it, the Legacy Evolution figure, design-wise overall, it looks more like his appearance in the PlayStation 2 video game than anything else. But yes, in vehicle mode it does roll fairly well. Just like the original Armada Hotshot action figure, there isn't much clearance space on the bottom, so good luck trying to get this to roll on a non-flat surface. Armada Hotshot definitely is not an off-road vehicle, but I'm really impressed with how it came out now that I have it in hand. And just like the original Armada Hotshot action figure, you can, if you want, open up the front bumpers. On the original action figure, here on the top of the feet, there were some saw blades sculpted in on there. On the original yellow Armada Hotshot figure, they were painted silver. On the red Power Links version, they were unpainted black plastic. And the only thing you really have that's reminiscent of the built-in chainsaws Hotshot had on his feet are just these 2 sculpted in trapezoids here on the feet. I have no doubt someone will try and come up with a third-party upgrade kit that switches out these feet with ones that have chainsaws sculpted in on them. But overall, it's a pretty decent figure for what it is. The windows are clear blue plastic, plastic with yellow paint on them, but the yellow paint does a fairly decent job of matching up with the yellow plastic on Hotshot. Unfortunately, since it's yellow paint on green plastic, if you look at it close up on hand, there's a slight green tint to it compared to the yellow plastic. It's not as noticeable on my camera as it is here on hand, but it is there, so there is a slight difference in that. One nice thing is that Hotshot, despite the Minicons not being released in the Legacy line, he does have a Minicon port here on the back, so if you have a Minicon, preferably his original Armada Minicon partner Jolt, you can plug Jolt there on the back. One thing you could do if you wanted is you could plug the engine block on Hotshot's back section and have it look like he has an additional machine gun mounted here on the back. And there is a Minicon a port here on Hotshot's laser gun. There was on the original one a working Minicon port on it, so that's a nice callback there. Here on the engine block. There are some paint jobs that are lacking on Hotshot on the new Legacy Evolution figure compared to the original action figure. The center of the hubcaps had red plastic pegs on them to match up with the missile that stuck out of the back wheels, and then the rest of the hubcaps were painted silver. So there is some paint. There is some parts of the Legacy Evolution figure that are lacking compared to the original. The spot where the engine block actually plugs into on the original Hotshot action figure, that was spray painted silver, while the front middle section was painted yellow, so they reversed that here on the Legacy Evolution figure. The gasoline tank, it is sculpted here just like it is on the original Armada Hotshot action figure. It's hard for my camera to pick it up, but that is what I'm pointing at with my finger. On the original action figure, it was painted silver, so having it unpainted yellow, it makes it blend into it. And then, of course, you can plug the engine block on there, and now Hotshot has an engine block with laser guns on the front of him, so he can attack Decepticons head-on. And for one last special size comparison, once again, here he is next to the Generation Selects Siege Cybertron version of Hotshot. So, again, more or less, Hotshot, at the start, he started off in the Unicron trilogy looking like this, and by the end of the Unicron trilogy, he looked like this. So, Hotshot did arguably go through some of the most transformations with his different body design. With his body design changing 6 times throughout the Unicron trilogy, more than any other Autobot did. So, now that I have the figure in hand, it is a pretty decent looking action figure. I'm still secretly hoping that Hasbro and Takara Tomy will maybe one day re-release the original Armada Transformers action figures, because I did miss out on the original Armada Hotshot action figure since I didn't start collecting Transformers until 2003, which is halfway through Transformers Armada, so I missed out on all of the Wave 1 and most of the Wave 2 Armada action figures. I didn't start getting into collecting them until Wave 3 was released. But with the rising cost of plastic, and considering how massive and bulky the original Transformers Armada action figures were compared to the more modern day ones, the Transformers Armada line being given a encore re-release or reissue, or any of the Armada action figures being re-released in an anniversary line, is highly unlikely, and so these new modern figures are the best option at getting the action figures of the Unicron trilogy characters. So with Hotshot now released, Optimus Prime up and coming and being released in the Legacy Evolution line, Armada Starscream having been released last year in Legacy Year 1, and Armada Megatron being rumored as one of the upcoming leader class figures in the Evolution line, we're now getting modern day designs of the Transformers Armada action figures. Whether or not all the characters from Transformers Armada will be given modern day action figures is uncertain at this point. I'd love to get modern day action figures of Sideways, Armada Jetfire, Ire. looking up at my Unicron Trilogy collection, Tidal Wave. I definitely love to see Tidal Wave either get a leader class or commander class sized action figure. Cyclonus and Demolisher, I'd like to see modern day action figures of them. And definitely a modern day action figure of Armada Scavenger is needed in my opinion, especially with his gimmick of his legs being a motor that just made them walk up and down all the time. But yes, now that I have it in hand and I've transformed it, I really now enjoy having Armada Hotshot in my Transformers collection. So I'd recommend you get this figure and add it to your collection. Absolutely, you cannot go wrong having Legacy Evolution Armada Hotshot in your Transformers collection. As a standalone figure, it's a pretty nice action figure. And again, Hotshot was designed to be a mashup of both Generation 1 Bumblebee and Generation 1 Hot Rod. So if you want to see have an action figure of Bumblebee that looks like Hot Rod, and vice versa, if you want to have an action figure of Hot Rod that looks like Bumblebee, then Armada Hotshot is the action figure to get and add to your Transformers collection. Thank you guys all so much for watching. This has been the TFangeek, and next time, you guys stay safe, stay healthy, Transformers roll out. Goodbye, everyone.